So after a week off, we are back here with UFC Fight Night. Volkov versus Rozenstruik. We got the number 7 ranked Drago taking on the number 8 ranked Biggie Boy. Again, it feels like we've seen this fight before at least twice, but here it is. Apparently they've never fought before. I mean, obviously they haven't fought before, but here it is. Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the main event. We've got 14 fights on this card. Take a look at Dan Ige versus Movsar Evloev in the co-main event. That should be a good one. Dan Argueta is making his UFC debut, taking on Damon Jackson on the prelims. You got the Picasso of MMA and Ode Osborne in this card as well. So 14 fights. And folks, if you have not yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for more UFC here on the channel. So why this is the first fight of the night, I have no clue. We got Erin Blanchfield taking on JJ Aldrich. For Erin Blanchfield, undefeated in the UFC, she's 2-0, really benefited with that dominant performance victory over Miranda Maverick in her last fight. She's dominated Maverick in her fight at UFC 269. 12 minutes of control time for Erin Blanchfield. She went 7 of 8 of her takedown attempts on that one. And in her first fight in the UFC, it was pure domination against Sarah Alpar. 10 minutes of control time on that one, outstriking Alpar 120-41. And she's taking on JJ Aldrich, who we did pick correctly in her last fight. Aldrich, of course, beating Jillian Robertson, winning that one by unanimous decision on the Santos Ankalaev card, and it was the boxing out of Aldrich which did give her the victory in that fight. Jillian Robertson went 1 for 6 in her takedowns in that fight, and really that's the sort of fight JJ Aldrich is going to have to fight against Erin Blanchfield. She's going to want to win on Saturday. I believe she's the biggest underdog on this card because, I mean, for good reason. Erin Blanchfield, again, probably the most hyped up prospect at 125, because I don't think really, are we considering Manon Fiorot a prospect anymore? I don't know. Because Blanchfield not in the top 15 just yet. If she beats Aldrich 100%, she will get that crack inside the top 15. But if Aldrich is going to win, she's going to have to keep this fight on the feet, avoid the ground game of Blanchfield. But that's just going to be tough for Aldrich. I really think it is. Just because Erin Blanchfield is just kind of on a different level right now. I mean, you just saw the way she dominated a pretty good grappler in Miranda Maverick and just completely, destroyed her from pillar to post in that fight. Again, if Aldrich is going to win, it's going to be on the feet. We look at her last 3 fights. She barely gets through Courtney Casey, and that was a fight where she had to rely on her wrestling to beat Courtney Casey. She beats Vanessa Demopoulos on short notice, and it's Demopoulos going up a weight class. Okay, she wins by unanimous decision. She beats Courtney Casey, loses to Sabina Mazo before that, where Mazo just outstruck her that entire fight. Same thing could be said in the Macy Barber fight, where Barber did knock her out, or TKO'd her in the second round in Nashville. Anyways, I don't think it's going to come to that. I think it's going to be Blanchfield taking this fight immediately to the ground, just dominating Aldrich down there. I don't think Aldrich will be able to keep this one on the feet. Again, if Aldrich is going to win, though, it's going to be the game plan she imposed in the Jillian Robertson fight. It's just that Blanchfield is so much better than Robertson on the ground and initiating, the wrestling and getting the fight to the ground. So I really do like Erin Blanchfield. I don't think this fight is all that competitive. I'm going to go Blanchfield by decision. There's a reason she's a minus 550 favorite in this one. So we're going again, Erin Blanchfield by unanimous decision. Next up, we have got Andreas Michailidis taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. I probably butchered Rinat's last name. I watched him fight Eric Spicely in UAE Warriors, and he just dusts them. I mean, he knocks out Spicely 55 seconds into that one, and I didn't know Spicely, since that fight, has gone on to lose 2 more fights in Octagon, so that's not great for his perspective. But for Rinat, of course, coming into that fight, knocking him out early in the first round, the guy's got it all. He can go to the ground if he has to. He's got some really good submission victories. He's got the knockout power as well. He goes with the left cross on Spicely and then delivers with overhand right and puts him to sleep. So good victory for Fakhretdinov. He's going to be taking on Andreas Michailidis in this one. For Michailidis, he's 1-2 in the UFC. Comes in, loses to Modestas Bukauskas, the one where he kind of falls out the octagon and all that. But it's a weird fight. Bukauskas, of course, now outside the UFC, got cut from the promotion. Then Michailidis goes on to beat probably one of the worst UFC fighters in a while. I mean, sorry, just KB Buller just wasn't very good in the UFC, and I know he's won back-to-back fights now in Unified MMA, and he was supposed to have a fight, I think another fight with that promotion, but didn't end up happening. But anyways, KB Buller wasn't great in the UFC. Michailidis goes in there, just beats him by unanimous decision. It's a pretty boring fight that Michailidis does win, and then most recently, he took on Alex Pereira in the first round. Michailidis wins the fight, and of course, Pereira now is probably definitely in a number 1 contenders fight, fighting Sean Strickland, but Michailidis goes in there, he secures a takedown in the first round, keeps Pereira down for 4 minutes, and then in the second round, it gets caught with a flying knee. But I mean, Michailidis kind of gave everyone else the game plan on how to beat Pereira. Will Sean Strickland capitalize on that? I highly doubt it. Anyways, so that's Michailidis so far in the UFC. For Rinat, he is 20-2 in his pro career. The 2 losses do come once in 2014 by unanimous decision, and then his first ever fight back in 2013 in the Ukraine regional fight. But again, for Rinat, coming off that win over Eric Spicely, and before that beat Johnny Carlos by unanimous decision. The guy's got it all. He's good on the feet, he's on the ground. I think wherever Rinat wants this fight, he can control it. I mean, sure, Michailidis does have some good striking. I mean, he does. I wouldn't say he has the most power, but he's pretty technically sound on the feet. I just think Rinat's going to catch him in the first round, though, and probably put him away just like what Rinat did to Eric Spicely. So I do like Rinat Fakhretdinov. Again, probably butchered the last name, but I'll just call him Rinat. I think Rinat's going to knock out Andreas Michailidis in the first round, similar to his fight that punched his ticket into the UFC. Fun one now at flyweight, we've got Jeff Molina taking on Jalglas Zhumagulov. And for Jeff Molina, I would think one of the more exciting 125 fighters really on the roster. I mean, he comes in the UFC, beats Jacob Silva on the Contender Series, then parlays that into a victory over Arichi Long over at UFC 261 in Jacksonville. It wins fight of the night. It's a tremendous fight. Molina knocks down Arichi Long twice in that fight, almost gets knocked down in the final like 15 seconds, but still picks up the victory, winning his UFC debut. Then after that, he beats Daniel De Silva, knocking him out in the second round. And Molina's got power that a lot of guys at 125 don't have, but he also is able to push a pace on the feet as well that makes it real dangerous for all of his opponents. Now, by far, his toughest opponent to date will be Jalglas Zhumagulov. And now, Zhumagulov is 1-3 in the UFC, and his one win is against a guy in Jerome Rivera who is, 0-4 in the UFC, that was his record in his run with the promotion. But for Zhumagulov, he comes in the UFC after being the Fight Nights Global, flyweight champion. He won a pretty big run in Fight Nights Global as well, going back-to-back wins over Tyson Nam, Tiger Ulanbekov, and Ali Bagantinov. And now the Ulanbekov and Bagantinov fights are both pretty close, but he still gets the nod on the scorecards in both of those fights. He comes into the UFC, takes on Raulian Paiva, loses that fight by unanimous decision. Paiva is just able to outstrike Zhumagulov in that fight. Then Zhumagulov goes and fights Amir Albazi, more of the same. He loses. He beats Jerome Rivera, where he catches him, of course, in that guillotine choke, and then he gets knocked out by Manel Kape back in December on the Font Auto card. Manel Kape, of course, knocking him down a couple times and then finishing him on the feet with a huge KO finish. It was a blitz again by Manel Kape. Manel Kape, one of the best fighters in 125. I think that guy, if he can stay, if he can stay negative on all of his drug tests, he should be fine, and he should be a pretty big target right now at 125. But in this fight between Molina and Jalglas Zhumagulov, again, Zhumagulov's lost 3 times in the UFC already, and I'm looking at his opponents, and Paiva and Albazi, and, Manel Kape's really good too, but I think Manel Kape more of a top 10 guy. Jeff Molina should be able to do the same to Zhumagulov. I really think his pressure on the feet is going to be tough for Zhumagulov to handle. I don't see this one hitting the mat, just because I think Molina is good on the ground too, and Molina is able to keep the fight wherever he wants it to be. I think it's going to be on the feet, obviously, and Molina should be able to push a pace against Jalglas Zhumagulov. I could definitely see a finish. I think it's 100% possible that Molina goes in there and he does put away Zhumagulov, especially on the feet. I'm going to go safe, pick Jeff Molina by decision. I could see a finish here, but I think Molina is going to go 3-0 now in the UFC with the unanimous decision victory over Jalglas Zhumagulov. No matter what, though, it should be a real entertaining fight. So I think this fight's going to be one-way traffic either way. I really think so. I mean, you got two guys who are pretty dominant wrestlers and guys who look for submissions, especially when you're looking at a guy, of course, in Johnny Munoz. But two guys who, very wrestling-heavy games. I think it's going to be one-way traffic either way. Either it's going to be Tony Gravely, like what he did in the Simon Oliveira fight, 11 takedowns, he goes 11-15 on his attempts, 12 minutes of control, or it's going to be Johnny Munoz, who's showing that he's the superior grappler and he maybe can lock in a submission or do something to that extent. Because really, I don't see this fight on the feet. I hope it's on the feet, but I mean, if it is a stand-up fight, I think Gravely's a little bit better. I mean, he does have power. Gravely, when he throws, he's not going to volume you. He's not going to, pressure you on the feet, but when Gravely lands, he does really connect and he can put you away. Like, especially when you look at a fight with Anthony Burchak or something like that. I mean, that fight was a big knockout win over Whitaker and Gaslam. So Gravely, when he connects, can put you away. And he did knock down Nate Maness when they fought, even though Maness ended up beating him in the Smith and Spann card. But so on the feet, I will give the advantage to Gravely. How does Johnny Munoz win this fight? I mean, he's got to be able to control Gravely on the ground. He's got to show that he's a better wrestler, and he's got to be able to threaten him with submissions, which is tough because when you look at Johnny Munoz so far in the UFC, he's 1-1, and his one win is Jamie Simmons. And is Jamie Simmons all that good? No. Is he going to get another shot in the UFC? I would assume so, because he came in short notice against Giga Chikadze, then lost to Johnny Munoz. I'd assume Simmons will get a third shot in the UFC, but he's just not all that good. I mean, you look at his record outside the promotion, he just didn't fight the best guys. And Munoz was able to submit him in the second round. He was able to take down Simmons in the second, eventually subbed him with with a rear naked choke. So he was able to take back pretty quickly in that one. So unless he's able to do that Gravely, I don't think he really stands too much of a chance, because I think Gravely's the better wrestler, pure jiu-jitsu and pure grappling wise. Then I would give the slight advantage to Johnny Munoz. But when you looked at a guy like Simon Oliveira, man, has pretty good jiu-jitsu. He was a pretty solid jiu-jitsu guy, came into that fight with 11 submissions, and that's what I thought. I thought, okay, maybe Gravely's going to go there, he's going to shoot a takedown, but Oliveira's going to catch him in something, and he's going to win the fight that way. It didn't happen, right? I mean, he wasn't able to catch Tony Gravely in anything. Gravely was just pretty sound on his takedowns. He shot 11 of them, didn't really, Oliveira threw up like 4 submissions, but Gravely got out of all of them, right? And Tony Gravely still had 12 minutes of control in that fight. So I don't think Gravely's going to find himself in a spot where he is going to get tapped by Munoz. I think it's going to be top pressure a lot from Gravely, and then again on the feet, if he has to stay on the feet, He's got more power than Munoz. He's got better striking than Munoz. I think he would be able to beat him on the feet, but on the ground, this is where I do like Tony Gravely. It's going to be through the wrestling, and it's going to be the top pressure that is going to impact the game plan of Johnny Munoz Jr. So that's why I got Tony Gravely winning this fight, and he'll get it done by unanimous decision. Up next, we have got Nicholas Stoltze taking on Benoit Saint Denis. And for Benoit Saint Denis, of course, most known for that fight against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, where, I mean, I don't remember what the referee's name was. I don't think he refs all that often. That was the first time I ever saw him, where that fight should have been stopped. I mean, Benoit Saint Denis just took a beating in that fight, and credit to him. I mean, props to Benoit Saint Denis. And if we found anything out about Benoit Saint Denis in that fight at UFC 267, is that the man is tough. He is a tough guy, and he's hard to put away. Benoit Saint Denis is one tough SOB. He stayed in the fight. He put up a really good fight in the third round, too. I mean, the guy's good. The guy is good. Benoit Saint Denis, again, got beat down by Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos in that fight, and he stayed in the fight on the feet. He didn't get knocked out, even though he probably should have in the second round, but still. In that fight, Benoit Saint Denis went 2 for 14 on his takedowns. And if Benoit Saint Denis is going 2 for 14 on his takedowns, he's likely not winning the fight. Well, unless he can keep the fight on the ground. He wasn't able to keep the fight on the ground. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Now, when he's taking on Nicholas Stoltze, the game plan is pretty simple here. It's to take down Stoltze. You got to follow the game plan that Ramzan Emeev, executed all the way back in Fight Island when on the Whitaker and Till card that he ended up beating Nicholas Stoltze on. Stoltze gets knocked down in his second fight against Jared Gooden, and now Jared Gooden no longer in the UFC. Obviously, he's fighting outside the promotion, and Gooden, let's be honest, has done a pretty good job responding to his release to the UFC. Beat Aaron Highball and Icon FC on their first ever card, and then on XMMA, he beat Curtis Millender. The guy's done pretty well outside the UFC. I'd like to see him get another chance. Hopefully, if he can pick up another win, just throw him like on some Titan FC card and have him fight an absolute bum like they're going to do with, I think, who just got booked? Was it Luis Pena or was it Roosevelt Roberts? One of those two just got booked against guys like 24 and 25 in Titan FC. That's a story for another day, though. Nicholas Stoltze is a guy, again, he's 0-2 in the promotion. Gooden's no longer in the UFC. That was the second fight he lost. And then, Ramzan Emeev, let's be honest, is kind of, he's not old per se. He's 35. Yeah, Ramzan Emeev's kind of washed, I'll say it. So, Stoltze hasn't had a good first two outings so far in the UFC. Benoit Saint Denis' first fight in the UFC wasn't good, but it did show that he's tough and he can stay in the fight. So, I don't think Stoltze is going to be able to knock him out because Zaleski dos Santos hits hard and he wasn't able to put away Benoit Saint Denis. So, I don't think Saint Denis is getting knocked down in this one. It's just, can Stoltze, outstrike him, and can he avoid getting submitted? Because Stoltze in his own right does have some submissions. I think on the ground, the Benoit Saint Denis is better. So I would anticipate Benoit Saint Denis trying to get a takedown in this fight, obviously, and I think he will be able to execute on that plan. Again, Gooden took down Stoltze, even though that fight only lasted a minute. Stoltze kind of propped back up, but still, that's happened. And then Emeev took down Stoltze 4 times in their fight back in 2020. I think Benoit Saint Denis wins. I just don't think Nicholas Stoltze is the greatest. He's 0-2 so far in the UFC, and I'm not even saying Benoit Saint Denis is the greatest fighter in the world either. I just think all around he's got a better game than Stoltze. I think it will be the ground game out of Benoit Saint Denis that will win him the fight. Do I think he'll get a finish in this one? I'm not going to bank on it just because Stoltze has never been finished by submission in his career. He's lost once by knockout and he lost 4 times by decision. I don't think this is going to be the first time he'll get subbed, so I'm going to go Benoit Saint Denis safe pick here, getting the win by decision. Just don't see Stoltze finding a knockout in this fight considering the amount of damage Benoit Saint Denis took in his fight back in Fight Island. My guy is back. It's Ode Osbourne. He's the Picasso of MMA, and he's back yet again, and he's taking on 4-3 Zaruk Adeshev. I think Picasso's picking up another win. I think Picasso's going to have a winning record now in the UFC. I truly think so. I think, dare I say it, this is the lock of the night? Maybe. Oh, I don't know. It's probably Aaron Blanchfield, but still, Ode Osbourne versus Zaruk Adeshev. Odds-wise and stylistically, it's a tremendous fight for Ode Osbourne. And if you want to put down anything on a -170, you might want to, because I think Osbourne's really going to win this fight. I think on the feet, Osbourne is better than Zaruk Adeshev, and I know Adeshev's got the background, of course. He's got his kickboxing background and all that, but still, you look at Adeshev's 3 fights in the UFC so far, and okay, he beats Ryan Benoit, but Ryan Benoit's at the end of his career. Ryan Benoit has lost a lot recently, right? And Benoit still knocked down Adeshev in that fight. In the first round, he knocks down Adeshev. If Ode Osbourne knocks down Zaruk Adeshev in the first round, I don't think he's going to let up, and I think Osbourne's going to put him away, right? So, you look at Adeshev's first 2 fights in the UFC. By the way, this guy's 4-3 in his pro career, right? Adeshev is 4-3 in MMA. He won 3 times in a row in Bellator, and the UFC decided to sign him. What were they thinking? I don't know, but they thought they found their next big kickboxer, I guess, in the division, and it hasn't really turned out so far, right? But for Adeshev, again, his first 2 fights in the UFC, his first fight, he loses in 30 seconds to Tyson Nam. Nam's not great. He's not a bad fighter, but it's not like Tyson Nam's known for his knockout power and going in there and picking up quick knockouts, especially in the UFC, right? I know he knocked out Jerome Rivera, but that's just what Nam's just not the guy in the UFC per se, right? I mean, and Adeshev gets dusted by him in the first round in 30 seconds. And then Sumudaerji, who I think is pretty good. I've been pretty high on Sumudaerji for a while. Just outstrikes Zaruk Adeshev for 15 minutes. Adeshev doesn't really put up too much of a fight in that one, and Sumudaerji wins by decision. Again, Adeshev does bounce back in the fight against Ryan Benoit, and that's cool and all. But Ryan Benoit, I don't think all that highly of, and I know I picked Benoit to win that fight, but I don't really give a damn. I think Ode Osbourne's so much better on the feet. You look at Osbourne's fight when he does go in there and he does knock out Jerome Rivera. And I know Rivera's not the greatest. Again, he's out the promotion now at this point. But Ode Osbourne, and considering this was Jerome Rivera fighting about like 20 days after losing to Francisco Figueiredo. But anyways, Ode Osbourne goes in there and knocks him out in 26 seconds. He fights Brian Kelleher in his first fight in the UFC, but Kelleher is a pretty good guy, and especially for entry fight in the UFC, that's kind of tough. He loses to Manel Kape. He gets flying kneed. No shame in that. A, Manel Kape missed weight going into that fight. B, Manel Kape's pretty much a top 5 guy in the weight class, and I think he's going to show it when he fights Bontorin next week on pay-per-view in Singapore. And then after that, Osbourne goes in there and beats CJ Vergara. And say what you want, does Vergara maybe actually win that fight? I don't think so. I scored it for Osbourne. I see the case for Vergara, but still, I like Osbourne a lot in that fight. I think he goes in there. I think he picks up the first round. He wins the second round. Of course, the third round does go to Vergara, but however you score that second round basically is who wins that fight. I give it to Ode, but I mean, that fight against Vergara showed, okay, Osbourne can keep his pace going for 15 minutes straight. He wasn't really able to take down Vergara in the second round. He does take him down once. And of course, in the third is where Vergara really decided to push the pace and really put it on Ode. But Ode wins the first two, and I really like him in this fight against Adeshev. I don't think this fight's going to see the cards, because I really think if, again, Ryan Benoit is able to stun Adeshev quickly, and same can be said about Tyson Nam when he fought him, and Mudaerji was all over Adeshev in their fight as well. Who's to say Ode Osbourne, the Picasso of MMA, isn't going to do the same? So I like Picasso to go in here. I think he's going to pick up the victory. Picasso, first round knockout win over Zaruk Adeshev, improving Ode's record to 3-2 in the UFC. So a well-deserved signing for Dan Argueta, finally making his UFC debut now and taking on a very tough out in Damon Jackson. They are doing Argueta no favors in his first fight in the UFC, but Argueta's a guy, we're going to start with him, who was fighting on The Ultimate Fighter. He lost to Ricky Turcios in the first round, the eventual winner of that show, and Turcios is now getting a second out in the UFC when he's going to be taking on Ayman Zahabi later this summer. Very excited for that, because Turcios is fun to watch. And by the way, where's Brady Heastand? I mean, why isn't that guy not getting the second fight in the UFC as well? Heastand should be in the UFC too. But you go back to Argueta, he loses to Turcios. Okay, that's fine. No shame in that. He ends up winning the show. Then Argueta turns it around. He wins on LFA 116 by armbar in the first round. Then he goes on in a main event, LFA 123 against Marion Santos. The guy was undefeated at the time, 12-0, goes in there and he beats him by submission by TKO in the third round with ground and pound. Then Argueta gets a shot at the LFA championships, the vacant bantamweight championship, taking on Diego Silva, who is the reigning CES champion at bantamweight, because he beat Andrei Sokolov. And Argueta beats him. He beats him by split decision. A closer fight than you would have wanted for Argueta, I think, because, I mean, nothing against Diego Silva, but he's 14-6. Argueta wins. He was a minus 350 favorite in that one. He cashes. He wins the fight. Now he's taking on Damon Jackson. And now we're going to find out who the better wrestler is, because Damon Jackson, since the Topuria fight, has been constant pressure on the ground. It has been pushing the pace. What he did to Charles Rosa was very outstanding. What he did to Kemuel Kirk was impressive too. I mean, you look back even in the Mursag Bektic fight, he's getting beat on the ground. Don't get me wrong. Bektic is controlling him, but eventually Damon locks in a guillotine, puts him away. I know he lost to Topuria, but Ilia Topuria is truly a top guy in the weight class. So no shame in that. He's 3-1 in his second run in the UFC. I didn't put his first run in the promotion on the graphic, obviously. I know he came in, he lost to Yancy Medeiros, and then had a draw, and then was cut from the UFC. That doesn't really matter at this point now, right? Jackson's back, and he's really maybe a fight away now from the top 15, but Dan Argueta, I'm really excited for. The guy's a really good wrestler. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. The guy's good, man. I mean, he's got almost all finishes in his pro career so far. Again, the exception is the Diego Silva fight, but still, Argueta right now is the reigning LFA bantamweight champion that he did win in that fight against Silva, a guy who is another champion of another regional promotion in CES, and I know CES isn't, as big as it once was, but Argueta beats Silva. It's a good win. Is he able to beat Damon Jackson? That's the thing. I don't think he's going to. Damon Jackson is pretty solid with his takedown defense. I know his percentage when you look at UFC stats is going to be different because of the Bektic fight, because Bektic was able to take him down at will. But you got to think about that fight. Damon Jackson took that on somewhat short notice too, coming in late replacement for Bektic, I do believe. And this is, the tables are turned now, because Argueta is now that guy who's taking this fight on very short notice, taking on Yeah, because Beck just supposed to fight Eduardo Garagori, then Damon Jackson came on short notice. Yeah, but now on this side of things, Argueda's the guy taking on Damon Jackson on short notice because Jackson's supposed to be taking on Derek Minner. I think Jackson's going to be able to win. I'm really excited for Argueda, and I'm finally glad he's in the UFC. I think he's going to have a long UFC run. He's only 28. I think there's going to be a time where Daniel Argueda will likely be in the top 15. That's showing you how high I am on Argueda. I think he's going to be really good. I really think Tercios and Heastan are going to be good too. Those two guys out the Ultimate Fighter season. I think they're all going to be tremendous, but I just think this is Damon Jackson's time right now. I don't think he'll be able to finish Argueda just considering how good Dan really is. So we're going to go Damon Jackson by decision over Dan Argueda. Next up, we've got Joe Solecki taking on Alex Da Silva. It's been a while since Da Silva's been fighting. I mean, I guess, yeah, it's over a year now when he fought Brad Riddell back at UFC 253, losing that fight by unanimous decision. It was a fight where Da Silva was controlling the fight on the ground, but Riddell was just beating him on the feet, and that was basically the end result of that fight. It was Riddell winning on the feet and winning that fight by unanimous decision. Da Silva is 1-2 so far in the UFC, comes in to the promotion in St. Petersburg, Russia, I do believe Overeem Oleinik was, but he got subbed in the second round against Alexander Yakovlev. Yakovlev beats him with the guillotine in the second round, and he turns that into a victory afterwards against Kazulo Vargas, though, 4 months later, and then he, of course, loses to Brad Riddell a year later on Fight Island. But Joe Solecki's been really good so far, and Joe Solecki's been really good in the UFC. I know he did have that one hiccup against Jared Gordon in his last fight, losing it by split decision. When we look at that one, I mean, Solecki's the one initiating the wrestling. He's getting the takedowns, but Gordon's able to win on the feet, and Gordon is able to hold his own on the ground as well, to the point where he does win a split decision. It's a close fight. You can make the case for either fighter, but Gordon ends up winning it. Before that, for Solecki, though, in the UFC, he goes 3-0 to start off his career in the promotion, beating Matt Wyman first over in DC. He was able to out-wrestle Wyman and just control that fight. He beats Austin Hubbard after that, submitting him in the first round, and then after that, he beats a tough out, and of course, a veteran in Jim Miller. Solecki with 10 minutes of control time in that fight against Miller. And he's 3-1 so far in the promotion, And you can make the case he's 4-1, or he's 4-0 with the Gordon win, or Gordon loss now. But I mean, what Joe Solecki does so well is his grappling. I mean, hell, he had the Fury Pro grappling match against Donald Cowboy Cerrone late into 2021. He beats Cowboy, subs him in the first round by rear naked choke. Again, it's a grappling tournament, but still, it just shows you how good of a jiu-jitsu game Solecki does have. And now Da Silva's got good jiu-jitsu as well, but don't forget, in his first fight in the UFC, he gets subbed by Yakovlev, a guy who I believe that's his, who's only won the UFC in the last 5 years. Because Yakovlev really went on a big losing streak at the end of his career in the promotion. He took 3 years off after losing to Zach Cummings, and then of course losing to Roosevelt Roberts and Joel Alvarez on his way out of the UFC. But I think Solecki's gonna be able to control Da Silva in this one. Da Silva not fighting in over a year and about 2 years doesn't really excite me about his chances in this fight either. Your only one being Kazulo Vargas, and not even being able to submit Kazulo Vargas in 12 minutes of control time is a little bit concerning. I don't think he's going to be able to beat Joe Solecki. I think Solecki's so good to the point where I think he'll be able to submit Da Silva. So I'm going Joe Solecki first round submission in this one. If Da Silva's able to keep this fight on the feet, he'll always have a chance, I think, considering Solecki's striking isn't the greatest per se, but still, I like Solecki. Takedown, submission, lock one in, and tap out Alex Da Silva pretty quickly, going with the Joe Solecki first round victory in this fight. The rematch you did not know you wanted until you got it: Felice Herrig versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And to imagine that this first fight was the last time Karolina won a fight is crazy to me, because it is. You gotta go all the way back. UFC 223 in Brooklyn, New York, April of 2018. Karolina Kowalkiewicz beats Felice Herrig by split decision. It's a pure stand-up fight. Karolina outstrikes her 126-86. The thing is, Karolina winning that fight put her in a fight against Jessica Andrade. It was the fight that inevitably just completely derailed Karolina's career. I mean, my goodness, since then, losing to Michelle Waterson, losing to Alexa Grasso, losing to Yan Xiaonan, but you're thinking in those 4 fights, okay, wait, it's Andrade, it's Waterson, it's Grasso, it's Yan Xiaonan. All 4 of those fighters are top elite level fighters to some extent, right? Okay, she loses to Jessica Penne, and now, okay, Jessica Penne's second run in the UFC, even though she was never cut, but her run post-USADA suspension, she hasn't been bad. Let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, she beats Lupita Godinez, even though I think she lost that fight. I personally thought she lost the fight, but she beats Lupi, she beats Karolina. Now she's gonna be taking on Brianna Van Buren in her next fight, or Brianna Fortino now, excuse me. So we'll see how that goes for Penne, but man, I mean, I don't think Jessica Penne is the greatest fighter in the world, and she submits Karolina in the first round. Karolina looked awful in that fight. Penne takes her down immediately. Karolina's got no response to anything Jessica Penne's doing, and Penne's able to submit her really quick. And I was surprised Karolina's even fighting again. I thought Karolina was going to retire, and I thought she probably should retire. but now we're getting her against Felice Herrig. Thing is, Felice Herrig hasn't won a fight since 2017. It was against Courtney Casey where she wins by split decision, a fight where she gets outstruck, and I watched that fight again. I thought Courtney Casey won. I mean, I think Casey wins the first. I can make the case she wins the second. I can make the case she wins the third. I don't know how Courtney Casey doesn't win that fight. I mean, the only round I think maybe you give Herrig the first, and then I think you give Casey 2 and 3. But still, I don't know. I know. Okay, I guess you can make the case for Herrig winning 1 and 2, but it's just Courtney Casey looks like she wins that fight. Felice Herrig beats Justine Kish. I think that's really her true last real. I mean, okay, I don't think Justine Kish is a great victory for say, and I know she beat Alima Leigh McFarland in Bellator recently, but that's Herrig's last good win. Back in 2017, where Michael Chiesa and Kevin Lee were main eventing. Herrig owns a win over Alexa Grasso, but that was back in 2017. Felice Herrig got knocked out by Paige Van Zandt. Oh wait, no, that's Bec Rawlings. Excuse me. Okay, I got my Paige Van Zandt fights mixed up. By the way, Paige Van Zandt fighting later today, or not fighting, having a AEW match, Double or Nothing. All right. By the way, MJF, where you at, dude? I mean, that's a story for another day. If you're watching AEW tonight, you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, Paige Van Zandt knocked out Bec Rawlings, but still, she beats Felice Herrig, and Van Zandt just dominates her. So I'm not high on Felice Herrig. She's lost her last 3 fights to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, to Michelle Waterson, and to Vina Jandiroba, where Jandiroba submits her in the first round by armbar. Man, I mean, I would say, okay, maybe Felice Herrig can submit Karolina. That's possible, but she hasn't really attempted a submission since the Kailin Curran fight back in 2016 in Chicago on the home Shevchenko card. I don't know what this fight's gonna be, because Karolina has looked so bad in her last couple of fights. The Yan Xiaonan fight, she gets dominated, she just gets held down, and she just gets outboxed. Michelle Waterson holds her down and out kickboxes her. Andrade knocks her out. Again, the last fight she won was the Felice Herrig fight. I hope Karolina wins. I really hope Karolina wins this fight, because I want to see the Karolina that helped beat Rose Namajunas to get a championship opportunity. I want the Karolina that won a round against Joanna, who wasn't scared of Joanna and came in there and, backed her down and stayed in the fight for 5 rounds. I want that Karolina Kowalkiewicz back. Obviously, that's not going to happen anymore. And now we're at this point where I'm just hoping Karolina can win a fight to end her career, because she is getting older now. She's 36 years old. For Felice Herrig, she's 37. So 2 older fighters now at strawweight. I am not picking Felice Herrig to beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I just can't do it. I don't care how many times Karolina loses, I'm going to still pick her, just like how I kind of picked her to beat Yan Xiaonan. Okay, I wasn't making videos at the time, but I thought there was an opportunity for her to beat Yan Xiaonan. I thought she was going to beat Alexa Grasso. I thought she was going to beat Waterson. I didn't think she was going to beat Andrade, but I didn't think she was going to get knocked out like that. Anyways, I'm going Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I still believe going Karolina by unanimous decision. I didn't really say how she's going to win this fight. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think she's going to keep the fight on the feet. I think she's going to outbox Felice Herrig. At least I hope she's going to. If that's how Karolina wins the fight, it's going to be that way. If Herrig's going to win the fight, it's going to be by taking down Karolina and basically doing what Yan Xiaonan did, or a mixture of what Yan Xiaonan and Jessica Penne did to Karolina. But we're still holding hope. I think Karolina wins this one by unanimous decision. So here we go. It's the UFC debut of Askar Morozov. And just look at the guy. Just look at Morozov. The guy is built. And now, will he be able to pass the USADA test? Apparently, he's going to be able to. And, that's impressive, because just look at the guy. That dude is scary. He is scary. He's from the Ukraine. He's going to be taking on Alonzo Menifield. And for Menifield's last fight, lost to William Knight. Now, in that fight, Knight's able to knock down Menifield. Menifield is able to have a little bit of success clinching and grappling with him, but in the end, it's William Knight winning that one by unanimous decision back in December last year on Fonten Aldo, and you've seen the success, or therefore lack of success, William Knight has had since that fight. But for Menifield before that, he beats Fabio Cherant, submitting him with, I believe it was the OSP choke, right? Yeah, he beat him with the Von Flue, and then after that, he beats Ed Herman by unanimous decision, loses the OSP before that, loses to Devin Clark, beats Paul Craig, beats Vinicius Moreira. Now, the OSP fight you gotta go back to. It's when OSP knocks him out in the second round. OSP has not been himself recently. I know he did beat Shogun and whatever the hell that fight was, but still, Menifield does lose that when he gets knocked down in the second round. And you look at his opponent here in Askar Morozov, and that dude, I mean, my goodness, just look at him. You'd hope he's got some power, because he does. He's got some power. Now, you look at his record, and it's interesting. It's an interesting record, because his last loss comes to Christian Torres. And there's some red flags. There's a lot of red flags on the record of Morozov, because you look at Christian Torres. The guy loses to his last loss. I mean, Torres is a guy who's now 15-12. Okay, he's got losses to Bruce Brusotto, a guy who fought recently in PFL when he lost to Rob Wilkinson. He's going to be taking on Antonio Carlos Jr. in a little bit, where Shoeface is probably just going to submit him in the first round like he does to everyone in the PFL. But Torres loses to him. Torres loses to Chidi and Njokuani in the main event of LFA 91. He beats Oscar Morozov. He beats Deshaun Boatwright, I guess, which is, okay. I mean, Boatwright's a guy who fought in the Contender Series against Menafield, but still, that's not like the greatest win. I mean, Torres just isn't all that good. He lost to Jamie Pickett. He's lost some guys who are now in the UFC. Going back to my original point, though, he finished Oscar Morozov in 2 minutes on Titan FC 58. And Titan FC, you know what Titan does. They try to build guys' records. I mean, they just keep trying to, for the most part, all undercards on Titan FC are establishing younger guys and prospects against dudes who aren't very good. Now, the main event of this card, you look back at it, it's a pretty good one. For the Titan FC Bantamweight Championship, you got Erwin Rivera taking on Danny Sabatello, and I'm high on Danny Sabatello, and hell, I'll make the case that Sabatello maybe wins the Grand Prix over there in Bellator, and Erwin Rivera knocks him out in the 4th round, which is a good victory. But you look at the rest of this card, they're setting up Muhammad Usman against a guy who's not very good. They're setting up fighters, and it looks like Morozov's supposed to be getting set up against Christian Torres, but instead he loses. So and something you gotta look at with Morozov, he's gonna have knockout power. He's able to get finishes pretty quickly. His last win comes in a bare knuckle boxing match where he wins in 8 seconds, right? He's got a whole lot of power. His jiu-jitsu is not very good. His grappling is not very good. So Menafield, this is a pathway to victory for him doing really simply here. If he takes down Morozov and he keeps him down, he should be able to submit him pretty easily. The thing is, will he do that though? That's the big question. And will he be able to do that, or is Morozov going to knock him out really quickly? Because I can see either way. Because if this fight gets out of the first round, Menafield's going to win. That's simple. Like, look at Morozov. He's not going to be able to keep up on the feet for 15 minutes. It's not like Menafield's got the greatest gas tank in the world or nothing like that. It's just that Morozov's not going to be able to sustain a UFC-level pace in the feet for 15 minutes. It's not going to be able to happen, and especially if Menafield's able to take him down, it's ball game. If Menafield's able to take him down and hold him down for more than 1 minute in the first round, there's nothing Morozov's going to be able to do. He's going to lose this fight. But you look at the first round, if Menafield is standing with Morozov for 5 minutes, I think there's a very good chance Morozov knocks him out. So it's a close fight to pick, man. It really is. Because you know the power Morozov's got. He's got a 5-minute window to win this fight. And you know what? I think he's going to get that win in those 5 minutes. I think he's going to knock out Alonzo Menafield in the first round. And it's not like I think he's the greatest. I truly don't think he is, because I think he can be easily exploited, and I think it's a very good chance he can lose this fight, and he can lose to any 205-pounder in the UFC 100%. He's a guy who used to fight heavyweight. He's going to be trying to cut to 205 for this Menafield fight. We'll see how that does go for him, but I think all that power he brings to the 205 weight class is going to be a little bit tough for Menafield. I don't think Menafield's able to take him down, because I just don't think he's going to be able to get to that takedown, because I think he will be met by strikes early by Morozov, and I'm going to go with Oscar Morozov to knock out Alonzo Menafield in the first round. I think it's going to be a quick 60-second knockout, introducing himself in the UFC. Go with Oscar again by first round KO. Next up, we have got Karine Silva taking on Poliana Botelho. And for Karine Silva, coming in as the favorite here in her UFC debut, and she's coming off the win over Kyuhee Yan on the Contender Series, winning that fight by guillotine choke in the second round. And honestly, though, not a great performance for Karine Silva. She wins, but she gets outstruck in the first round. In the second round, she gets taken down, and eventually she pulls off a submission off her back with a guillotine. But I mean, honestly, in the first round, she gets dominated on the ground. She doesn't really do anything. She struggled in that fight against Yan, and now here she is against Poliana Botelho in a fight where she's favored in. You look at Tapology, I believe she's a huge favorite on Tapology right now. Yeah, you look 81% for Silva, 19 for Botelho, and I know Poliana Botelho is not the greatest UFC fighter. She's not. I mean, look at her wins in the UFC. It's a win over Pro Gonzalez by unanimous decision. It's a body kick finish in 30 seconds over Siri Kondo, and then it's a unanimous decision victory over Lauren Mueller. Her losses, most recently, she's lost 3 of her last 4, is Cynthia Calvillo, Jillian Robertson, Luana Carolina. Now, for Luana Carolina in her last fight, it was a split decision now. I think you can make the case Botelho wins that one, honestly. I mean, it's a close fight. Botelho definitely wins the first round, and the second and third are the ones that are tough to score in that fight, but the judges gave it to Carolina. Obviously, Botelho lost to Jillian Robertson fight. Robertson just dominated on the ground. Not much that Botelho could do in that one. That's basically where this fight stands, right? I mean, Karine Silva is going to try to take down Poliana Botelho, and if she can't take down Poliana Botelho, I think she's kind of screwed. Botelho, 80% takedown defense so far in the UFC is really good. I mean, the only 2 fighters that have been able to take her down are Cynthia Calvillo, who's a primary wrestler, that's really all she does, and Jillian Robertson, who, is just 100% basically a grappler, right? So for Silva, this is a tough out for her. 100% in her first fight in the UFC. I could definitely see a pathway to victory for Poliana Botelho. It's keeping this fight in the feet. It's not striking Karine Silva in this one. For Silva, yeah, she does have some good wins. She's got a really nice heel hook victory over Simone de Silva, where she sends de Silva out on a stretcher back in 2020, winning that one. So she's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, as Silva. But she does have some losses to a 3-0 fighter back in Fight Night Global in 2017. Excuse me, actually, that was Marina Mohatina. Okay, yeah, Marina Mohatina, the fighter that just went 3 rounds with Kayla Harrison in the PFL, and then she lost to Dion Barbosa in her second loss back in 2019. So in this fight between Botelho and Silva, though, I think it's just dependent on if Botelho can keep this fight on the feet. If she can, I think she'll win. If not, I think Silva's probably going to be able to submit her. But still, I wasn't overly impressed with Silva's fight in the Contender Series, not to the point where I have a lot of confidence on her beating a fighter that's been in the UFC since 2017 and who owns victories over, 3 fighters who are no longer in the UFC, but still against 3 UFC fighters at one point in time. I like Botelho to win this one. I think she's going to keep it on the feet, and I think she's going to outstrike Karine Silva, and I think Silva, sure, she has some skills on the feet, but not to the point that Botelho's got. I think a lot of people are overlooking Poliana Botelho in this one, just concerning her last couple outs, but yeah, I like Botelho to come in here, pick up the upset victory at plus 105. Really do like this one. Poliana Botelho beating Karine Silva by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got Mike Trizano taking on Lucas Almeida, and for Trizano, losing his last fight to Hakeem Dawodu by unanimous decision, got outstruck basically 2-1 in that fight. And he's 3-2 so far in the UFC as Trizano, of course, since winning the Ultimate Fighter when he beat Joe Giannetti in the final of that season. He went on to beat Luis Pena after that by split decision, dropped the fight to Grant Dawson, no shame in that, beat Ludovic Klein by unanimous decision, and then, of course, dropped the fight to Dawodu. What Trizano's been doing in the UFC so far, it's been the striking game that has been winning him fights. You look back at the Giannetti fight, that's how he beat Giannetti. He beat Luis Pena pretty much in the feet. He has mixed in some of the takedowns, but recently it's been him getting taken down. When you look at the Grant Dawson fight, got taken down 3 times in that one, and the Ludovic Klein fight got taken down 4 times, against Klein back in 2021 on the Rodriguez and Waterson card. As for his opponent, though, in Lucas Almeida, look at Almeida. I'm surprised he got signed to the UFC. I really am. I mean, I know, he did win his last fight against Trinade on Jungle Fight 103 to win the lightweight championship, or to retain actually the lightweight championship over there at Jungle Fight. But he lost in the Contender Series to Daniel Zelber, who's fighting at Trey Ogden coming up later this year. He loses the fight by unanimous decision. He gets outstruck by Daniel in that fight, 115-96. Okay, but the thing is, my thing with Almeida going into this fight is, if he's getting outstruck by a guy who, again, entry-level guy in the UFC, he's probably going to get outstruck by Trizano as well. So when you're looking at this one, it's probably Lucas Almeida is going to have to try to submit Trizano if he's going to be able to win this fight, which is possible because Almeida does have a lot of submissions under his book, or under his name. He's got a flying knee finish back in 2019 as well, but it has been the submissions out of Almeida that has been impressive as well. So if he's able to drag this fight down against Trizano, he might have an opportunity to win this one. It's just that I don't think he's going to be able to take down Trizano. Trizano's takedown defense is actually pretty good. I know he has been taken down 4 times by Dawson and 3 times by Klein. I actually switched that. 3 by Dawson, 4 by Klein. But in those fights still, he was able to get back up to his feet. Maybe not the Dawson fight, but the Klein fight, he ended up winning that fight, obviously. He got taken down 4 times. He was able to win the fight because he kept popping back up to his feet. He didn't allow himself to stay on the ground and get grounded by a guy in Klein. I just don't think Almeida is going to be the guy to do the same thing like Grant Dawson did, where Dawson was able to submit him in the second round. So if Trizano's able to keep this fight on the feet, or at least get back up and work back to his base after getting taken down earlier in the fight, I think he should have enough to win the fight. So I'm going Mike Trizano by decision. I think, again, he'll avoid the jiu-jitsu and he'll avoid the ground game and all out of Lucas Almeida. He'll keep the fight on the feet. He'll push his pace. He'll work a volume striking game against Lucas Almeida on the feet. And I don't think he's going to get knocked out by Almeida. Almeida does sure have power, but I think Trizano should be able to get away of danger, and he should be able to just pick his shots at the right time. So that's where we're going with Mike Trizano's reason. Again, he's a minus 235 favorite in this one. Going with the former Ultimate Fighter winner to win this fight. I think he'll beat Lucas Almeida by unanimous decision. Co-main event time, and it is a good one. We've got Dan 50K Ige taking on Movsar Evloev here in the co-main event. And for Evloev, currently undefeated, 15-0 is the record. He's been perfect so far in the UFC, and when you look at his UFC run, coming into the promotion, beating Seungwoo Choi in his first fight, and this is a theme in all these fights, you'll probably recognize it. He beats Seungwoo Choi, he lands 5 takedowns on Choi in that fight, wins the fight. After that, he wins by decision against Enrique Barzola, a guy who, of course, is now in the Bellator Grand Prix, but Evloev comes in there, he takes down Barzola 4 times, wins the fight by unanimous decision. Then in his next fight, he does get taken down 6 times by Mike Grundy. It's the one outlier. fighter out of all these fights, but Evloev is able to work back to his base pretty quickly every single time he gets taken down by Grundy. And in that fight, it's Evloev relying on his striking to win the fight, and that's how he did beat Grundy by unanimous decision back at Whitaker Till on Fight Island. And after that, he goes on and beats Nick Lentz by split decisions, a fight that should not have been split. I thought it was a pretty clear 2-1 for Movsar Evloev. He's able to take down Lentz a couple times, but he does work his striking in that one, and he outstrikes Nick Lentz basically 2-1 in that fight back in Abu Dhabi on the Poirier-McGregor card. And then after that, he beats Mean Hakeem Dawodu at UFC 263 in Arizona, beating Dawodu by unanimous decision. Dawodu got taken down at will in that fight. It was Evloev takedown, let him back up, takedown, let him back up, takedown, let him back up. 9 for 13 in his takedowns in that fight, 9 minutes of control time in that fight for Evloev. Scored a 10-8 in there as well, winning that fight 29-27 on all 3 cards. Now, Dan Ige is a guy who's been in multiple main events. He's been in 2 of them so far in his career. He's been in the UFC since 2018. He fights all that damn time. The guy will fight anybody. I mean, Danny Ige was willing to take on Ryan Hall at a point in time of Ryan Hall. No one wanted to fight him, so, you know, when Hall dropped out of that fight, Danny Ige went in and took on Gavin Tucker, a guy who was undefeated in the UFC to that point. Gavin Tucker was, you know, a pretty hyped up prospect going into that fight, and Danny Ige knocks him out in 22 seconds, and we haven't seen Gavin Tucker since. Tucker did lose to Ricky Glenn back early in his UFC career, but still, he had all the hype around him, and Danny Ige knocked him out in 22 seconds in a fight that I thought Gavin Tucker was going to win. So what does Danny Ige do after that? Well, he loses to Chan Sung Jung. The Korean Zombie beats him in a unanimous decision victory for the Zombie, winning it 4 rounds to 1. I think Sal Diamato had it 3-2, but in that fight, it was the Zombie's wrestling that ended up winning him the fight, and if you're Movsar Evloev, you're looking at what Zombie did to Danny Ige, and you're liking what you're seeing, because Chan Sung Jung in that fight was able to incorporate and mix in his striking with his grappling, something that the Zombie doesn't do all that much, obviously, because Korean Zombie is a primary boxer, but he was able to take down Ige 3 times in that fight, and those 3 takedowns, I'll say it, won Zombie that fight and got him a title shot, and the title shot, of course, they did not go well against the champion Alexander Volkanovski, but still, Chan Sung Jung was able to incorporate that game plan and he beat Danny Ige. Now, Danny Ige turns into a fight with the returning Josh Emmett at UFC 269. It's a close fight. Emmett knocks down Ige in that one. We're about to get Josh Emmett versus Calvin Kattar in Austin, Texas. Really excited for that fight, but of course, Emmett wins that one by unanimous decision, getting the best of Danny Ige in that fight at UFC 269. We look at this fight though with Evloev and Ige. It's a good one, man. I mean, Ige, we're gonna see his takedown defense is gonna be tested in this one. Obviously, on the feet, I think this one's competitive. I don't think Evloev gets the respect he deserves on the feet because he is a pretty solid striker. It's just that he goes to his takedowns a lot to the point where he doesn't need some of his striking. But he's a better striker than some of these typical wrestlers that you usually do get, you know, out of Russia, right? I mean, you think primary guys who, you know, fight wrestlers out of Russia, you're thinking, okay, they can only, you know, wrestle and all that. But Evloev does got some striking as well, training at Tiger Muay Thai as well. The guy's good, man, and I think he'll be able to mix it up pretty well against Danny Ige. I like Ige, I like the heart he's got, but I just think this is too much for him to handle in this fight. I truly think so. I think Evloev, again, I think he'll be able to take down Ige multiple times in this fight. I think he'll have some success in the feet, and he'll be able to mix it up really well against Danny Ige. And again, it's just a tough out for Ige. Maybe he does go in there and he knocks him out really quickly like he did to Gavin Tucker, and he ends the hype train of the undefeated Evloev. Could that happen? Maybe. I wouldn't count on it though, and it's going to be tough for Ige because I think after this fight he will have lost 4 of his last 5. But we got to go. We got to do what we got to do. We got to pick the guy we think it's going to win. Minus 380, Movsar Evloev. I think we'll get it done by decision. Ige's so tough, and he's so tough to put away. So if Evloev can't submit him, he's definitely not going to win this one. He's not going to finish this one, excuse me. And again, Evloev is yet to find a finish so far in the UFC, so I don't think it's going to come in this one, especially against one of the tougher guys to put away and in the division. You saw the damage Ige took in the Calvin Kattar fight. You saw some of the damage he took in the Zombie fight, and same with the Josh Emmett fight. He keeps going, and he's always in there late in fights, so maybe Ige is able to somewhat like out cardio and out condition Evloev to the point later in that fight where he's able to pick up a 3rd round, because it could happen, but still, I think Evloev 100% is going to bank rounds 1 and 2, and that's what's going to propel him to victory. So we're going to go with the Russian and Movsar Evloev to beat Danny Ige. He'll get the job done and win this one by unanimous decision. All right, so main event time. We have got Alexander Volkov taking on Biggie Boy Jairzinho Rozenstruik, or if Brandon Fitzgerald's on commentary, he'll call him Jair Rozenstruik. Has Jairzinho Rozenstruik ever gone by Jair? Like, I feel like I say this every time he fights, and every time Brandon Fitzgerald talks about Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he always calls him Jair, and no one else calls him that. Like, Bisping doesn't call him that, Anik doesn't call him that, Rogan never calls him that, DC doesn't call him that, Cruz, no, Felder, no, Dan Hardy, when he used to commentate, no, Laura Sanko never says it. Where does Brandon Fitzgerald, and why is Brandon Fitzgerald the only guy that consistently says Jair Rozenstruik? This is a story for another day, but it's just weird to me. Like, why does he always say it? Because it's not like he just messed up once. No, he consistently says Jair, and he's the only one that says Jair. Anyway, Rozenstruik and Volkov in the main event. I feel like we've seen this before, but we haven't. It's just the UFC's continuation to continuing. That did not make sense, but it's the UFC's fascination of scrambling top 10 heavyweights and just placing them in 5-round main events in the UFC Apex. And now again, I don't know why we're still in the UFC Apex, and that's another story for another day. Because again, I know that maybe the UFC wouldn't want to go to Russia right now, but you could sell this card out like, just dude, go to the Palms and just sell it at 3K Arena. The UFC, and okay, I'm sorry, we'll get to this actual fight prediction in a second, but why is the UFC the only sport in America that's not back to full crowds? It's ridiculous, and they still do it. And Dana White prides himself on, we're the first organization back. When crowds come back, we're gonna be the first one, which is okay because the issue's not COVID. Like, Dana White. He doesn't give a damn about COVID. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. It's Dana White. I mean, right? He does not care about that situation. It's about money at this point. That's why we're not back on the road every single week. It's because they want to run these fight night cards with no disrespect to Volkov and Rozenstruik, but it's not an A-level, fight night card. They want to still run fight nights like this, like the rumored Viviane Araujo versus Alexa Grasso later in August, which, by the way, you could run that in Mexico and I guarantee you'd sell out. But anyways, like, they want to continue to run the Jamal Hills versus Thiago Santos. And the thing is, you can still run those in arenas, but the UFC just wants to save money. They want to stay in the stupid Apex forever, and the environment's just crap. It's terrible. And you know what? This has got 5 rounds just of pure technical striking and decision written all over it. I'm sorry, but this is what this fight's got. Like, this is going to be very, in my opinion, Gane versus Rozenstruik. I think this is what this fight's going to be. Okay, and if that gives away my prediction, maybe it does, but I truly think that's what we're going to get here. Because when Jairzinho Rozenstruik is not knocking guys out in the first round, or when he's just not getting a knockout early in the fight, it tends to be a boring fight. I mean, okay, maybe the exception to the Junior Dos Santos fight, because that fight wasn't horrible. He knocks him out in the second round. Good for him. And Junior Dos Santos, by the way, now has a loss to Yorgande Castro on his record, and now he's gonna probably go fight Fedor after his shoulder heals. Great. Or maybe Yorgande Castro fights Fedor. I don't know, but for Rozenstruik, again, either he knocks the guy out in the first round, or he loses a boring decision. I feel like that's what it is. And I know it's only happened twice, maybe. The Blades fight and the Gane fight. But I feel like that's just what Rozenstruik is at this point in his career. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know why I'm so confident in this, but he's only had 15 pro fights. But I feel like I've watched Rozenstruik's career, and I feel like he's just, that's just what he is at this point. Either he wins in the first round, or he's getting beat for 5 rounds. And maybe the one exception is the Overeem fight where he knocks him out 4 seconds to go. And when we're being honest with ourselves, Overeem probably should have won that fight. Mergliata probably shouldn't have stepped in there because, hell, Rozenstruik walks away. Oh my goodness, can I talk English? Speak English. Ooh, English is hard. But right, I mean, maybe Overeem probably should have won that fight. Anyways, I'm not gonna disagree with the stoppage per se, but still. Rozenstruik, either he knocks out his opponent really quickly, or his opponent figures him out in the feet. They avoid getting hit by a big power shot or getting countered quickly by Rozenstruik, and they win that way, right? So Gane did it, and I think Ciryl Gane implemented the best game plan someone can ever implement against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He stayed on the outside, he picked his shots, he threw a lot of body kicks, something that Volkov will do. But Volkov will throw body kicks, especially to the front body kicks to the front of Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I anticipate him to do that a lot in this fight and keep his distance because that's what Volkov's got. Of course, he's so tall. What, he's 6'8", 6'7", 80-inch reach for him. Biggie Boy's got 78-inch reach, so it's not going to be that big of a disparity in that one. But still, Volkov's going to be about 5-6 inches taller than Biggie Boy in this fight. You know it's going to be a pure striking fight. Both these guys don't go to takedowns. I mean, Volkov's last takedown I think he's landed was when he landed that one late in the fight against Chris Blades back in 2020. But other than that, I mean, he took down Derek Lewis, I think, and then I think that's it. He might have taken down Verdum. Okay, he took down Verdum. But I mean, right, Volkov's not going to be taking down Biggie Boy. It's going to be a striking fight. And I'll be honest with you, I think Volkov just keeps his distance. I know he lost to Tom Aspinall in his last fight. He didn't look great in that fight, but he was on enemy territory fighting Aspinall, and Aspinall's the next big thing at 265, and I truly believe that. I think Volkov, we're going to see a very similar into the fight that he fought Marcin Tybura, just that he's not taking on a guy in Tybura who just kind of wings big shots out there. He's going to be taking on a guy who is a good striker and a very good technical striker in Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but a guy in Rozenstruik that does struggle sometimes to pick the correct shots, and sometimes it does result in Rozenstruik being very boring in there, and Rozenstruik not really going for it, and Rozenstruik just be on the receiving end of a 50-45 where he's just kind of standing there, waiting to maybe throw a big counter right. Maybe he will throw that big counter right, but it's just not going to connect every single time, and he'll just get 50-45. So that's what I think is going to happen this one. I think Volkov will win this one. I mean, unless Rozenstruik knocks him out in the first or second round, I think this fight will get deep into this one, and I think Volkov will win. And I think it's just going to be one of these heavyweight main events that goes all 5 rounds. It's in the Apex. It leaves you with that kind of like sour taste in your mouth because, yeah, I mean, actually, this card's going to be in the morning, I think, right? It's going to be at or 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. So it's going to be, wait, 11 p.m. Pacific? No, 10 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, yeah. Let me get my time right here. But it's just gonna be one of those, like, you're just thinking about the end of the day, like, okay, that was a good card, but it didn't really need this, you know, heavyweight 5-round main event. That's all I got. I think Volkov wins. Volkov's at this point of his career where he's really not getting the knockouts that he, you know, once did earlier in his run. I mean, what's Volkov now? He is 33, so actually he's younger than I thought he was. But I mean, he couldn't finish Greg Hardy. He finished Walt Harris with a body kick. He did finish Overeem, but it was more of Overeem busting his nose open, which definitely is, you gotta give credit to Volkov for doing that, but it was more that damage put away over him than an actual punch by Volkov to finish the fight. But obviously, again, that was an accumulation of damage by that Volkov put on over him. And then, of course, the Tybura fight, he wasn't able to finish Tybura. So I don't think, if he wasn't able to finish Hardy and Tybura, I don't think he'll be able to finish Biggie Boy and Rozenstruik. But I think still Volkov will be able to win. The only way I see him losing is if he gets, you know, knocked out early in the first round or in the second round by Biggie Boy. The Ospinal lost because of the submission. And again, he was losing on the feet. But is Tom Ospinal a better striker than Jairzinho Rozenstruik? I think so. So I like Alexander Volkov to win this one. I think he'll beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I don't think it'll be the most spectacular fight. I don't think it's going to be one of these fights that we're going to be talking about in December as fight of the year. It'll just be another heavyweight main event. The Alexander Volkov Drago does win, going with Alexander Volkov to beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the main event by unanimous decision. I think he wins pretty much every single round in this one. Maybe Rozenstruik wins the first if we do see a more aggressive version of Biggie Boy in this fight, considering like what we saw in his last couple of fights. Maybe where he's just kind of sitting back and just waiting for his opponents to do something to him. Maybe if Rozenstruik is more aggressive, then he will win a round or two. But if he does that, then he does open himself up to getting caught by a big shot by Volkov. We'll see what happens. But again, I still do like the Russian in Drago, Alexander Volkov, to pick up the victory here in the main event by unanimous decision. And folks, thank you all for watching another UFC Fight Night preview and predictions here on the channel. If you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video. We'll be back next week for a huge pay-per-view from Singapore. In the main event, you've got Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka for the light heavyweight championships. You're not going to want to miss that video coming out next week, again, from Singapore. Thanks again for watching, and Mamba forever.